साथियों, पहला सत्र काफ़ी पहले सत्र के दौरान काफ़ी गंभीर विषयों पे गंभीर प्रस्तुतियाँ हुई और हमें लगता है कि जिस विषय पे हम बात कर रहे हैं उसका संबंध है गाँव से। खेती और खेती का जो संबंध हम जोड़ते हैं गांव से जोड़ते हैं। और पिछले वक्ताओं ने बताया कि भूख को मिटाने के लिए जो हमारी खेती की संस्कृति थी उसको बदल करके पॉइजन की संस्कृति, जहर की संस्कृति में बदल दिया गया, जिसका कि हम भुगत रहे हैं। उसके बाद ग्लोबलाइजेशन जब शुरू हुआ तो जो हमारी जीवन शैली थी ग्रामीण परिवेशों में, खेती के परिवेशों में, वह अब मार्केट की शैली बन गई। अब हमारे गाँव में और खेती में जो ऑर्गेनिक के स्वतः प्रयोग होते थे उसको अविकसित श्रेणी में रखा गया और मार्केट में जो ऑर्गेनिक आ रहा है उसकी मार्केट बन गई। तो ये जो परिभाषा, बदलती हुई जो परिभाषा है उसको भी देखने और समझने की ज़रूरत है। और इसका संबंध हमें लगता है खेती की जो क्राइसिस है या खेती में जो भी समस्याएं हैं उसका जो पर्यावरण से रिलेशंस है, दरअसल हमें लगता है कि जो विकास का जो मॉडल है उससे सीधा सीधा इसका संबंध है। और अगर हम खेती का संबंध सिर्फ गाँवों से जोड़ते हैं तो जो आगे की जो भविष्यवाणियाँ हैं कि भारत की बहुत बड़ी आबादी शहरों में रहने वाली है और वो आबादी अगर शहर में आगे रहेगी तो उसका पर्यावरणीय प्रभाव क्या होगा, उसका पानी पे, उसका हमारे रहन सहन पे, हमारे इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर पे, हमारे प्राकृतिक संसाधनों पे क्या प्रभाव पड़ने वाला है। क्योंकि हमने जिस मॉडल को एडॉप्ट किया है और कहीं न कहीं उसको हम बढ़ा रहे हैं या कहीं न कहीं उसको हम मौन सहमति दे रहे हैं, जो शहरों के जो मास्टर प्लान बनते हैं और उस मास्टर प्लान में जिन चीज़ों को लैंड यूज में लोकेट किया जाता है उसमें कहीं भी इसका ध्यान नहीं है कि अगर 2-2 करोड़ 1.5 करोड़ की शहर हमारी बनेगी तो खाना कहाँ से खाएगा, और वो खाना अगर गांव से आएगा तो उसके लिए हमको शहरों में इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर कितना चाहिए, वहाँ से ला करके शहर तक पहुँचाने के लिए कितना इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर चाहिए, उसके लिए पूंजी कितना चाहिए, बिजली कितना चाहिए, और उससे जो निकलेगा वेस्ट, उससे जो निकलेगी गंदगी, उस गंदगी को हम कहाँ फेंकेंगे। अभी हमारे पास शहरों में रहने वालों की आबादी कम है लेकिन फिर भी हम देखते हैं कि दिल्ली के चारों ओर जो गंदगी का पहाड़ है, जो हम गंदगी पैदा करते हैं, जितना हम गंदगी पैदा कर रहे हैं क्या उसका हमारे समाज में डिमांड है क्या। तो खेती और वेस्ट का जो मैनेजमेंट है उससे क्या रिलेशंस है, ये अगर उसको हम समग्रता में नहीं देखेंगे तो शायद जो हमारा चैलेंज है कि जो एग्रीकल्चर में जो कॉर्पोरेटाइजेशन हो रहा है वो डील करने में हम शायद बहुत कमजोर पड़ गए। तो मैं इनिशियल अपनी रिमार्क के साथ मैं वक्ताओं को बुलाना चाहूँगा। साईनाथ जी ने कहा है वो अंतिम में बोलेंगे, तो आप लोग बताएं कि आप दोनों से पहले कौन बोलेंगे।
ऐसा कर रहे हो कि आई थॉट द ऑर्डर वाज ऑलरेडी देयर, तुम ऑर्डर रीऑर्डर करना चाह रहे हो, व्हिच इज ऑलराइट। चलिए मैं शुरू ऑर्डर करना, अदरवाइज विशाला को सुनना चाहिए पहले, मेरा ख्याल।
ठीक है,
नो प्रॉब्लम, एनीथिंग।
कॉम्प्लेक्स चीज को सिंपल करने में
I really need to introduce myself. For most part of the last few decades, when all the fabulous people here were working on the organic movement, I was on the other side of the world, busy chartered accountant setting up shell companies for high net worth individuals. I'm a sinner. And I think the reason I'm here, or what has brought me here today, is the last 8 years of farming experience. I don't come from a farming family, but then got introduced to farming by chance. And for the last 8 years, I've been living on the outskirts of Bangalore, farming. I don't know if anybody can imagine hell for farmers. That must be.
Can you hear her, or is she audible?
So a rain shadow area where in the last 8 years I have seen 5 years of drought, 5 to 6 years of drought. An elephant corridor, the thinnest part of the elephant corridor, so when the herd movement happens we are the worst affected. And there's been rampant mining for 20 years in our backyard. And we are extremely, I'm not, but most of my neighbors, most of my community are extremely poor. I wouldn't even qualify them in BPL, they're probably much below that. And for the last 20 years we were sold, the farmers were sold the idea of sericulture as a solution because of that Central Silk Board being present in Bangalore, and then a lot of research happening around silk. So sericulture was sold as a solution for most of the farmers there for their economic stability, and it's been quite difficult to actually get back to growing food for ourselves also. You'll probably find, if you ever get to visit our place, you will find small pockets of paradise between places like our farms, where we try to do some agroforestry by growing more number of trees and less number of crops, because we try to be as elephant friendly as possible. So this is a bit about me on why I'm here, and eventually in these 8 years I've been trying to learn, understand, and it's always been their books and their talks, and most of them being my guiding force in understanding what agroecology is and what agriculture actually means, and the problems or the advantages of agriculture that we have. I don't think I will have too many facts to share, but probably some little stories which can add to what people have already expressed here in terms of issues. These are real stories because currently for the last 2 years I am part of an organization called as the PGS Organic Council. PGS is a global system called the Participatory Guarantee System, which basically in spirit means that anybody who eats participates in that food system. A very simple line that I remember reading from one of Wendell Berry's writing, where he says, eating is an agricultural act. And then few other people added to it and said, eating is also a political act. So I guess we are there, most of us, it's time that as consumers, as producers, as people who eat at least 2 times a day, we acknowledge the fact that we are part of the agriculture system. So this organization, PGS, is a system, a participative system, which basically tries to bring all stakeholders together on a platform. It's been there in India, I think, like Vandanaji rightly said, the organic movement was not triggered by the consumer movement. It was not triggered by the consumer movement because probably for very long time everybody had pretty decent access to safe food. I remember as a child, it was easy. I mean, we ate brilliant food, absolutely great food being in Bangalore, because Bangalore was more or less like a small town. It was not what it is today. So I guess it was not a consumer movement here for a reason. Culturally, in terms of urbanization, in terms of concentrated eating population, we were not that big that we needed a consumer movement. But in the last couple of years, things are changing. Things are changing, and we have more number of people consuming, and then there is technology, there is information, there is data, there are different kind of interpretations, and there are different languages spoken by the economic system. There are, I would say, innovations happening in vocabulary, in using, end of the day I see that same demand supply economics which is working, but which is being made to work with people. But I see that the vocabulary is changing. Today we talk about shared economy because there is technology which is able to facilitate these things. So when PGS was got into India by pioneers like P.D. Satish sir, then Bablu and these organizations, Claude, people got together and felt that let's probably codify and standardize a few things so that we have a language, we have a universal language where we communicate with people and get people to participate in their food systems. And this happened it was in 2006 that the movement started, but because of the cultural and the socio-economic conditions that were in India, the stakeholder, people who actually brought it into India focused more on the practice of growing for very long, because farmers needed this little support to get them out of what was sold to them in the form of green revolution. So we've heard enough of the problems, and these problems, and it's been a huge fight for them to sit there, be grassroots organizations, be with the farmers, and then help them transition into something which we call as agroecology. But the last 2 years, somewhere in the last 2 or 3 years, we have been facing certain challenges. Certain questions were raised on us, to us, by I would say the government and also the farmers, basically because the markets fail to understand what agroecology means. The organic industry was growing. The last 10 years has seen tremendous growth. I think the percentages by E&Y say somewhere like 220% growth in the organic food industry, in domestic consumption in India. This is the last report that I read by E&Y. So that's huge. 220% market growth of domestic consumption of organic is huge, and that really means that there is good amount of consumer awareness happening. But then when we try to explore on why is PGS so much behind, and why have we not put forth our stories, or why are we not one of those brands which is actually communicating and reaching out to people, is then we realize that there are maybe 14 brands of Sona Masuri organic rice, whereas when we came back and put out our list of produce that we have 110 varieties of ragi with us. With the 8,000 farmers that we have in our group, we had 110 varieties of ragi and around 46 varieties of rice. So there was no single story for us to say. And when we were told, when we started interacting with the policymakers, and when we actually started thinking that we had to now step beyond the production systems and reach out to more stakeholders and make our stories actually be heard by the larger masses, when we were told certain statements which we are still figuring out on how we fit into those systems. One of the statements we heard from APEDA was that you guys are undemocratic. So we went into this self-evaluation mode and wondering, now why are we called undemocratic, and you're not capable of growing. So growth in terms of what? So there was this question. When we came back, we said, okay, now what do they mean by we are not growing? So we had to shift our lens and then try to figure out on what's growth for them, what's growth for APEDA. And then there was this, so we had this dialogue with some of the officials, and they said, now look at our database system. So we also run a PGS system. Look at our database system. We have enrolled 35,000 farmers in the first year, and you have been around for 5 years and you've got just 8,000 farmers with you. So we said, okay, brilliant. Now, obviously, we expect the government's institutional structure to be much more robust than what we are, and to be able to reach out to the entire country in a much more efficient manner than probably a civil society organization could do. So we at some point we said, yes, now we have failed to grow beyond the point, maybe we should have expanded. And then when we went into the actual exercise of opening up the database system and analyzing it and looking at what the data exactly meant, is when we realized that data can be fed into system, and data is not always the real story. And there is no way we could point it out to them. There is no way we could tell them that this data is not the real story, but we have some real stories to say. We have members from Leh, we have members in dry and arid place like Anantapur, we have members in Kerala, and we have members in Kerala who have efficiently fought the flooding that's happened in their terrain, Byond and the regions around there, where we have around 4,000 farmers working of which 2,000 of them are completely certified farmers, they have been able to mitigate the after effects of flooding much better than other farmers. They have been able to bounce back faster. So we have stories of resilience, we have stories of real practices actually translating into nutritious products, and we have been able to reach out to the market, and we have been able to give an assurance to the market that we follow certain principles. But what the whole system of policy when it came to organic farming demanded from us was not principles but practices like ZBNF. ZBNF is, according to us, we also have a member organization who practice ZBNF. ZBNF is a practice, and PGSOC works on a set of principles, agroecological principles, what was detailed by Padmanabhan and Aruna is also here. So we work on principles, and practices are like tools. And principles like a toolkit, a whole lot of toolkit which is derived out of these principles. And as long as any practice aligns to the principles, we call it an agroecological system, and we put it under the food basket, and then we market it as a product of agroecological practice or principles. So this system meant that we could not have a single policy. We could not come up with a policy draft, a beautiful one, a 2-page one, which the government actually, very nicely produces and say that now this is our policy document. We were not able to. When we tried to write a policy, it meant that we needed so many complementary policies on various things, because agroecological concepts for us is not only the tangibles of the soil, the water or the seeds, but the intangibles of economic viability, social justice. With all these principles built into an agroecological principle-based system, it meant that we had to actually arrive at policies and structures supporting these policies, which were a huge basket of them. Which meant that, and when we tried to place it in a central government system, which meant that at least 12 departments were involved, 12 ministries were involved. And in our ministries and in our governments, we do not have a food systems approach at all. Food system approach seamlessly translates between production to consumption, recycles, follows the circular economy. And food systems approach is grossly missing in the way our governance is structured, basically. So when we try to simulate it at a smaller level and have governance structures which can actually have a systems approach, we were effective in doing it when we were small. So which kind of is a story, is a fact, which is what Leo keeps advocating on local systems and panchayats and powers devolved and decentralized systems working much more effectively and smaller systems working much more effectively under a large guideline principle. So for the last 2 years, we have been putting forth this with the government, communicating with them and telling us that for a transformation in agriculture, for a change in agroecological principles, and also to address many other issues, what we need from you all is a guiding set of principles from which, and then set of tools, and these tools need not be designed by the government authorities, or we don't need agriculture universities to design these tools. These tools are available with us. We have 19 members practicing at least around 12 different methods. Each one of them have their documentation, have their data, have their details on how it works, what doesn't work. And it's available with them. The knowledge systems are available with them. If these knowledge systems have to translate into data or information, the way that the government or the global laws or the national laws look at it, it is a lot of efforts. And it's a lot of involvement from the people who actually practice farming and who actually decide to eat good food. But none of these stakeholders are active participants in designing these food systems or designing these policies. So it's been a lot of communications and trying to understand, and between all this we do have these external influences. Then we have technology, and the requirement of, this is another statement I heard just yesterday, from FAO, which clearly said, yes, you guys will be allowed to be part of the system, provided you are ready to share data. I said, we are ready to share knowledge. We are ready to share knowledge. Data, yes, we do have data with us, but for us, because it's food systems, we work with farmers and we work directly with consumers, we do our numbers, we do our accounts, we see everything, we see, okay, we figure out if there's been economic viability, there's justice, and then there's been fair pricing right through, and we close it. And then we have learned our lessons, and then there are certain things to be changed, certain things to be left as it is, and we move on to the next season. But this idea of data accumulation in a specified format with a specific technology tool being given was something that, again, we've been having dialogues for the last 1 year. We've been involving various NGOs which work on accessible technologies, been questioning the governments. We don't have laws. We don't have policies for IT, data collection, tools, accessible technology, participative technology. As much as there is I think, a brief thing on open source participative development, and when we have put some questions with certain departments on asking why haven't these technology tools been developed in an open source, where in the sense you're supposed to literally have hackathons where people are supposed to participate and develop technologies, they said yes, we still haven't been able to facilitate such things. So we are I think as a generation, if I were to look a little futuristic, I don't think we can take an anti-technology stance, but then we have always been trying to change their vocabulary and talk to them about accessible, usable technology which can actually be utilized by them for what they need, rather than for what probably somebody needs. And then governments do need some data, because the argument was that we need data for policy decisions. We said yes, of course, policy decisions are based on past data and analytics, probably, but can we sit together and be specific on what are the kind of data that would be required? And can we analyze the data fields? We still haven't had anybody from NIC opening up, cooperating, and telling us that yes, they are ready to have dialogues with us. So these are multiple things that we are, like I said, a simple system that we have been able to do with 19 small organizations, 8,000 farmers, and one office with around 2 or 3 of us, trying to take it forward. Because I think today we are all talking about scaling up agroecology, and I think the UNCCD is talking about mainstreaming agroecology. So which means that we are really looking at trying to make it bigger, trying to make it the thing that's going to happen in agriculture and in our food systems now. So how do we do it? How much do we participate in it, or how much should we actually be a part of it, is something that we have been questioning for the last 2 years, and trying to get some answers, trying to make the entire process participative, trying to involve consumers in the whole process, in trying to get consumers to first understand what biodiversity is and what an agroecological system actually can offer, rather than 13 brands of Sona Masuri there. I have no clue what the difference is. Honestly, I have no idea on if they have different processing techniques. We are not sure about that. So, and a little bit on how we achieve some of those intangibles, like even an economic viability is. Yes, as much of in terms of structural changes or structural innovations, we don't see anything better than community-based organizations at present. So, like Leo keeps suggesting, and we have also been trying, it's been a good experiment with Tamil Nadu, where we have been trying to strengthen the panchayats and the committees to actually take up governance of local community-based organizations. There's a lot of resistance because panchayats are largely political freedom units, is what I call them. I like to refer to them as. So there's reluctance, there is resistance to actually take up governance issues, but we have been trying to see if we can mobilize capital also within the community there, and then have community-based organizations governed by the panchayat locally, and the NGOs only, in the whole setup, we have had the NGOs playing only a facilitating role in this process. So with this system, we have been trying out to give little prototypes of changes which will holistically take care of every principle that we talk about under the agroecology concepts. So this is about what PGSOC is doing and its contribution to what agroecology actually means. And today we very consciously divided it into two wings, because for a very long time we were focused on certifying farmers and mobilizing farmers to take up agroecological practices. But today we realize unless we change and we bring these stories out to the market, and the market actually understands, because there is urbanization happening rapidly, and the market actually understands what these produce offer, which is different from a branded organic produce, the change is going to be very difficult, because end of the day the farmers need economic stability to continue doing what they are doing. So we have split ourselves into two different wings, and we are trying to focus on the consumers, trying to bring stories, trying to tell to people that we have 140 varieties of ragi with us. So this is where we are today, and this is, I think, my relevance in being here and being able to talk to you here. Thank you so much.